In today's podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about serotonin. I'll see you inside. So, serotonin is extremely complex, complicated, and even experts have differing opinions on what serotonin's role in the human body actually is. Interestingly, a lot more recent research has come out that about 90% of serotonin is actually produced inside of our gut. And it also appears that a lot of serotonin production by the gut may not actually be a good thing. But today I just kind of want to stick to serotonin's role in the brain. So it actually appears that serotonin increases one's resistance to stress. However, I want to be very clear that I say stress resistance and not stress resilience. When thinking about stress resilience, I personally believe that it's one's ability to face adversity and stress and deal with it in a beneficial manner. This would be noticing a stress and taking positive action to combat it. However, stress resistance is simply just the act of not allowing stressful stimuli from the environment to cause a stressful response in your body. Simply not letting an external stressor cause you to begin to develop a stressful physiology. And I understand that the word stress is often scary and negative, but stress is an extremely important thing. As I've mentioned, stress is necessary to make muscular and physiological adaptations. Stress is necessary for attention, motivation, and action. For example, if there was a flood in my home, I would like all of the stress I need to best strategize and deal with the flood. The stress that results in me realizing there's a flood in my home makes me more alert, aroused, energetic, and just enhances my ability to think and move to my greatest ability. With that being said, once the situation is dealt with, I would like the stress to go away. And now, the stress that I just described would be more of an acute stress. And while it would be very stressful, it would be quick. And with that being said, it appears that low-grade chronic stress seems to be the most malevolent kind of stress that we should actually be actively trying to avoid. This is the kind of stress that is persistent, and by the end of the day, you put yourself in a stressed physiology throughout the entire day. And oftentimes, this is stress that we can't do anything about, like having chronic inflammation. And now another example is something like a deadline that you can't really change or do anything about, but it kind of sits in the back of your mind throughout the entire day, causing this acute stress. And I think this is where serotonin comes into play. So serotonin seems to make you more resistant to stress. So this means that it can kind of make these acute and very small stressors, like getting cut off in traffic or having to meet a deadline, not cause such a stressful physiology. Simply just allowing our brain to move past these very small stressors that don't require our immediate attention or immediate energy. So the brain isn't left ruminating on these kind of random stresses throughout the entire day, because this can be extremely energetically taxing and take our focus off the task at hand. And to really demonstrate the effects of serotonin, I can mention what happens if you have extremely high serotonin, where in this case serotonin becomes very detrimental. So an individual with extremely high serotonin will actually not be motivated to do much of anything at all. These people can simply sit on the sofa all day and not really worry about not having enough money for the future. Even though the people around them might be telling them that they should be doing something with their life, they feel so content with simply just sitting on the sofa that there really is no reason to do anything about it. However, in this very extreme case, it seems that it's also a state of low dopamine. Simply, these people do not have the motivation to get up off the sofa, because without dopamine, no action appears rewarding or worth the effort required to obtain it. The worst state in the literature seems to be someone with very low dopamine and very high serotonin. Individuals like this, who have been studied at the extreme level at least, report just sitting on the sofa all day long without any environmental stimuli, even a book or a TV. And the reason for this is because it takes too much effort to get off the sofa and go get the remote. And now this is called apathy, but it seems to be one of the symptoms in Parkinson's or Alzheimer's disease. And we know, at least in the literature, that Parkinson's disease is absolutely associated with the loss of the nerve cells that actually produce dopamine. And now people in this state oftentimes won't even eat, and this is where the stress resistance comes into play, because starvation is actually a stressor. However, because they have very high levels of serotonin, even the stress of starvation just doesn't seem stressful enough to cause them to take action. And now, obviously, this is a scenario where extremely high stress resistance makes you complacent and unmotivated. However, finding the correct amount of motivation and stress resistance allows us to focus our attention on important tasks and not allow for small and unimportant stressors to remain ruminating inside of our mind. And this appears to be the impact of serotonin. If we think about someone with high but healthy serotonin, this would be someone that kind of goes throughout their day without letting the stresses of other people's lives and other people's opinion really exude any effects on their own well-being. You see, serotonin is often described as the stress coping neurotransmitter. Having a lot of serotonin allows you to take an external stress and interpret it in a way in which you do not overreact. And the previous example demonstrates how having way too much serotonin causes you to underreact to a given environment. And then we can finally look at what having low serotonin would look like, and this is simply just having symptoms of anxiety. This is because it seems that every single stress, even small stresses, causes you to overreact. And the actual physiology of overreacting is likely overproducing cortisol and adrenaline. And now, in the right quantities, these neurotransmitters and hormones are actually extremely helpful, but having too much, these neurotransmitters are actually catabolic. Therefore, if we don't have enough serotonin and there are small stressors that accumulate throughout the day, we may actually be putting ourselves in an extremely stressful physiology, which can in turn begin almost breaking us down from the inside. So I think the big takeaway from this is that serotonin is simply the neurotransmitter of reaction. It seems to modulate the intensity and vigor in which you react to a stress. There is an amount of serotonin that is too little, and then you are constantly overreacting to stress. And then there is an amount of serotonin that is too much, that you are underreacting. And then in that Goldilocks zone, you are reacting in an elegant manner in which you do not get extremely stressed, but you take the proper actions to deal with the stress and recover. Therefore, like absolutely everything else in physiology, serotonin is neither good nor bad, it just is. And now I hope this episode just provided insight as to what serotonin is and how it could possibly be affecting your neurochemistry. And I hope that you actually come back next episode, because next episode we're actually going to take a step back from serotonin and talk about tryptophan and the ways in which tryptophan can not only help with your serotonin production, but it can help you sleep by helping you produce more melatonin. With that being said, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.